Welcome back to the High Value Man Conversation. This is a very special episode. I've got a guest on the episode. She is a narcissist slayer. Rebecca Zung, top 1% U.S. attorneys, is a negotiation expert. She has a YouTube channel with over 30 million views, all on the topic of how to slay the narcissist, to be a narcissist slayer. Yes, a narcissist, that type of human being that is a siphon from the relationship. It's like a mosquito. It's like a leech. And she's sharing all of the ways you recognize you're in a relationship with a narcissist, how to win back your space, how to negotiate like a beast so that you get what you want, and how to recognize if you, my friend, might also be a narcissist. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So fun. So fun. It was so fun. We just recently celebrated Rachel's birthday.
Yeah. We had all the friends out in Dallas at our house out there. And Rebecca came out, and there's her pup if you can't see this on the audio. But Rebecca came out and was out there celebrating. It was an awesome night. It was great.
Yeah, so fun. So fun.
Rebecca, I know you're going to do a much better job explaining what you do and how you do it, how you got into it. If you don't mind just bringing the listeners up to speed, what exactly is a narcissist slayer, and how did you find out about this whole app?
Yeah. So I am an attorney by trade, as you mentioned, and I had one of the top family law practices in Southwest Florida for a long time. And, obviously there was a narcissist or two in there or more. So, I was dealing with narcissists in that way, but I didn't actually even know what a narcissist was in dealing with them in that way. It was after I merged my practice with a couple of other really fantastic guys, not narcissists, a couple of years ago, that I was like, okay, I'm really more of an entrepreneur at heart. I was doing a bunch of entrepreneurial endeavors. And in one of those entrepreneurial endeavors, I ended up partnering with a person who ended up to be a narcissist. I had a narcissistic business partner who was actually female, which I didn't know that a narcissist could be female. And it was really one of the most horrible, heinous, awful experiences of my life. It caused me so much angst, so much anxiety. I ended up being like awake in the middle of the night. I was like having panic attacks. It brought up emotions that I thought were long gone. Remember, I'd had a lot of success as an attorney already. And so, I really didn't know what was going on. Then somebody pointed out to me that this person was a covert passive aggressive narcissist.
Ooh.
And I did not know what that was. I'd never heard that term before. So I started to do research on it, and I was just blown away about, oh my God, what is this? But yet I was definitely certain that this is what this person was. So as I was doing the research, I realized, wow, I could actually apply what I'm learning about narcissists to what I already knew about negotiation.
Oh.
And I was already an expert in negotiation. I had been lecturing on negotiation for many, many, many years. I had been the keynote speaker on the topic. I had written books on negotiation already. So this was already an area I was, considered to be an expert on. So I started to apply what I was learning about narcissism to what I already knew about negotiation. And it was like I had discovered penicillin. And that's how I really kind of got into it.
And just so for the listeners that are unaware of what a narcissist is, I have a textbook definition. I probably have engaged and interacted with one, more than likely, but I don't know that I could pinpoint all of the behaviors. Can you explain kind of what a narcissist is and who they typically prey on?
Yeah, I like to give more of a layperson's definition. There's a DSM-5 definition with like 9 different things, where they go into grandiosity and all of those like markers. But I like to give more of a layperson definition because I think it's just easier
Love
to
that.
understand, which is a person who has no inner sense of value. So they have to get all of their sense of value from external sources. And so they feel totally and completely empty inside. And so what they do is they get all of their feeling of value from people, basically, or external sources. And so you have to picture a person who feels like starving, desperate, gasping for air, desperate to breathe. And so they want you to fill this black hole inside of them. And you might want to fill it too. And so you're left feeling completely depleted, but they're still starving because it's like this sieve in them.
Wow.
And so you are left like feeling like your soul is completely depleted, but they're still starving. And it's like this complete, cycle.
And like a mosquito.
Yeah. And yet they're like in scarcity mode at all times. But that's like at the very end of the spectrum, because it is a spectrum. It is, a personality disorder. It is a legitimate personality disorder, and that is recognized by the DSM-5. But because they're in this constant feeling of pain, that's why they can't feel empathy for other people, because they're just constantly trying to feed this feeling for themselves, So people who are empathetic, empathic, or, they see this sort of thing and they go, oh, I can love them. I will help them. I will do this. So they seek out people who are going to be willing to give, willing to do, willing to want to do these generous people, kind people, good people. And they kind of prey on that. They'll give stories like, I had a terrible childhood, or my ex was awful, or they start off by saying things like, I can do these things for you, or I can give the world to you, or I can, because they kind of see that this other person wants that love or wants that attention or needs that, and so they kind of mirror and do and give everything at the beginning that this other person needs. And then as soon as they're ensconced and in with this other person, they immediately start devaluing them and start, even if it's a business relationship, which is what it was with me.
So I'm picturing like the way that you're describing, I'm picturing it like a leech. Almost.
Oh yeah.
Like they can't get sustenance anywhere else. They can't internally validate. It's all external. They have to attach themselves to someone that is giving their energy, giving their love. And they're just a succubus, literally sucking that energy from that relationship. Now, as I hear you describe this, some of this sounds a lot like some attachment theory for people that have gone through trauma growing up, and they're just, they're doing their best they can to try and validate their love. Where does the spectrum, because you mentioned the spectrum, where does the spectrum go to an unhealthy narcissist versus someone that is really just kind of navigating through life and learning about their self-worth?
Well, I mean, it's somebody who just cannot have any empathy for others, right? They just literally can't. I mean, somebody says their dog died or, whatever, and it just doesn't, there's no registering for it at all. There's no feeling for the other person of any kind. And so, I mean, it's that's really what a narcissist is. And there's really kind of two forms of supply, the way I look at it. So I kind of define it in my terminology as what I call diamond level supply, which is what a narcissist will protect and defend at any cost, which is how they look to the world. So it's adulation, it's prestigious friends, impressive houses, impressive jobs, how they look to the world, respect, that sort of thing. Then there's what I call whole level supply, like the underbelly of narcissistic supply, which is manipulating people, controlling people, treating people poorly. That feeds their ego too. They also get a hit on their ego for that, but they don't necessarily show that side to the world. They only show that side to their target. So being passive aggressive, that's also a way of kind of a hit to their ego,
Sure.
There's two different forms of narcissistic supply. But when push comes to shove, if they have to give up one over the other, they would give up the controlling the other person before they'd ever give up how they look to the world.
The externals of the world. That's interesting.
Right. And so that's how you build leverage in a negotiation. That's how you build your leverage.
Oh, okay. I want to pull on that thread a little bit. I want to loop back around to this passive narcissist also, but talk to me about the leverage, because you're a negotiation expert. You recognize that you are in these relationships with these narcissists, and they really have these two pain points: the kind of internal validation where they have to leech onto someone else, but also the significance where other people have to respect and admire them. So how do you use that leverage point once you recognize, and maybe we can also talk about how do you recognize you're in a relationship with a narcissist so that you can get leverage over them?
Yeah. So how do you recognize it? Well, you'll recognize it right away because, when you are, the red flags are when you are starting off in this relationship, it starts off almost like a bomb, it's like this rocket fuel, because they almost take over your life, whether it's business or personal. They kind of blow up your life. All of a sudden you're just getting hit with this person. Your emails are blowing up, your texts are blowing up. They've got all the right things to say, all the right contacts for you if it's business, all the right, I'm thinking of, in a business situation, one of the people that I coached, she was fine in a CFO role that she was in, and she was courted to go to China to be a potential CEO of a division. And the guy wooed her and said, hey, you can start this women's organization group within you can have all the salary you want, all the benefits you want. You can have everything you want. Everything she wanted, it was a yes. It was absolutely perfect. They kind of mirror you too. And same thing if it's a romantic relationship. Oh my God, you like, chocolate ice cream with sprinkles? That's my favorite. You happen to, love dogs? Dogs are my favorite. You hate cats? I hate cats too. It's, you can't believe that you found your soulmate.
A certain amount of that is normal in a relationship, right? Because that's kind of how we come together. Like you find things that I've changed a little bit. I've changed in my dating relationship with Rachel, and she'll say the same. But what I hear you say is that there becomes a disingenuous, like non-authentic molding. It's literally, I'm just going to copy you because I think that's what you want. So you're creating a covert contract. You're changing who you are to basically try and get them to like you.
Well,
Right.
But not only that, it's pressure to get to the next step immediately. Let's move in together. Let me meet your family. Let's get on a bank account together. Let's partner. Let's sign a contract. It's pressure to get to that next step immediately. You know, the joke is no one falls in love faster than a narcissist who needs a place to live. You know, like they want you to immediately get to that next level, because once they lock you in, then they can start taking withdrawals, because the point is they don't want to have to keep making these deposits. They want to start making withdrawals as fast as possible.
Interesting. Okay. Is narcissism a learned behavior, or is it like a biological makeup that you're just predisposed to?
Oh, well, it's definitely as a result of trauma. It's,
okay.
You know, it's what happened was with our brains, when we're in fight or flight, our brains get immediately bathed in chemicals, you know, because we have to get prepared to fight or flight, right? So our brains release, cortisol, epinephrine, things like that, right? And so when we're children, the same thing happens, but children who are continuously exposed to trauma, the brain actually, the growth becomes stunted. The emotional part of the brain actually becomes stunted, and it causes arrested development in narcissists. So what happens is the limbic system part of the brain is stunted. So when narcissists grow, the rest of the brain develops as normal. But when they're presented as adults to stimuli that causes them to feel threatened in some way, which could be the smallest of things, they're very easily slighted. You know, they feel like anything slights them, you know, then they go into this defense mode. So it's called narcissistic injury. And then their narcissistic rage comes flying out in some way. And that's why you can't negotiate with them in the same way you would a regular, reasonable person. Because most people think narcissists just want to win. What is it that they want? I'll just give it to them. That's no problem. Let me give it to them. I'll be done. But the problem with that line of thinking is that only takes into account diamond level supply, how they look to the world. It totally forgets about and discounts coal level supply, which is they also love to manipulate you. They also love to see you squirm. They also enjoy the process of just making you miserable. You know, that's why they constantly move goalposts. They enjoy the game. And so one person is over there going, let's just come to a resolution, you know? So the reasonable person is thinking, what's a good, reasonable resolution? What's a win-win for everybody? You know, let's split the difference, you know, that sort of thing. The narcissist is going, how can I continue to make the other person miserable? How can I continue the game? And so you're totally on different planes.
And different games, yeah.
Yeah.
Different games, different rules, different perspective, different belief system.
Correct. Correct.
That makes sense. Can you heal from narcissism if it's brought to your attention?
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. Totally. But, you know, you have to understand that people who've been in relationship with a narcissist are dealing with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And, you know, that's one thing that, you know, your wife actually does a great job with.
Not yet, but she will be. Wife.
Oh, yes. Yes. Your significant other.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it though. We'll let her know that it's coming. Yeah.
Yes. Your significant other. Beautiful Rachel does a great job with, because you do hold that trauma in your gut. It does get held down deep in your gut. And it's painful, and it takes a long time to, it does get held in you physiologically. I mean, it's something that people don't even realize how much they carry within them, because regular PTSD is something, and I just want to make sure people understand the distinction, is something that happens to people because of one event. They saw an accident, or they were in a war or something. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder is something that happens to people when it's a regular, continuous thing that happens to them over time. And, if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's business or personal, the constant exposure to gaslighting, word salad, and all of the things that they do to mentally work on you and cause cognitive dissonance in your brain.
What's word salad?
Things like, you try to have a conversation with them, and they just say things that are just completely out there, to confuse you, to mess you up, that just don't make any sense whatsoever, so that you're completely confused. You go back and forth all the time. So, like, for example, you think that a conversation is over, and you went, why did you go to lunch with that person or whatever? Oh, I didn't go to lunch with that person. I had lunch with your sister. Remember, here's the pictures and here's the text messages, whatever. Okay, that's resolved. And then, like, an hour later, I can't believe you went to lunch with that person. That's so ridiculous. I can't believe you did that to me. We just had this conversation, and it goes, round and round, like as if you didn't just have that conversation.
They're stuck in some type of ruminating pattern, and they're bringing it back to the surface
and they know that you just had this conversation, but they purposely do that to you, like to make you think that you're the one who's crazy, like that sort of thing. That's just one example of something that they'll do. I mean, that's just one example.
Sure.
There's just, I could give like 100.
What if, you're sharing, if you're in a relationship with someone who is a narcissist and you're experiencing this complex post-traumatic stress because they're constantly emotionally just throttling you, and they're really just being a vampire inside of life. What if you recognize, oh man, I've got narcissistic tendencies based on, maybe listen to a podcast or following your content, or life wakes them up in some capacity? Can you heal from those behaviors if you're on the other end?
What I have heard is that it is extremely difficult because you have to be self-aware.
Sure.
You have to be willing to make those changes. And most of the time, narcissists are not self-aware. Most of the time, they think it's somebody else's fault. It's you. It's the other person. It's not my fault. It's them. You have to go, I have to be responsible for my own triggers. My anger is my fault. It's not the other person. And most of the time, people aren't willing to do that unless they go into full-on collapse because life made them do that. They lost their business, they lost their family, they lost everything, and they have to take a look at, I think the only common factor here had to have been me.
So they've hit rock bottom.
Correct.
Yeah. So what I hear you say is another way to spotlight being in a relationship with narcissists is they never take responsibility. They're constantly pointing the finger. They're always blaming. It's everyone else's fault. And the self-awareness is actually the tool for healing in any capacity. So once you are self-aware, then you can start doing the work. But oftentimes it takes a significant tragic life event to wake these people up because they're just running through life being the mosquitoes.
Right. Exactly.
Interesting. There's so I've got this thing on my wall that says "Stop Pam." The type of man, and I identify with it, I work with a lot. I call him Pam. So Pam is the passive aggressive man. He's passive with his women. He's passive with his relationships. He's passive with his hopes, his dreams, his desires. And he ends up being aggressive, typically passive aggressive through covert contracts. I'm going to do for you out of expectation that you're going to do for me. He's got a number of vices, but he's not really leading the type of life that we would expect from most of our modern men. And so as I heard you describe this covert, passive aggressive narcissist, I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit more on that, because I have a feeling some of my guys are probably dealing with some levels of narcissism. And so I'd love to share a little bit more about, or have you share a little more about that covert narcissist. What does that look like?
Covert narcissists are people who look very kind and humble on the outside, but under the surface, there's a lot of rage. They're competitive under the surface. There's a lot of, pent up anger that they aren't willing to admit or express. And so it comes out in other ways. So because they don't want to look like they are not kind or look like they are not the good person. So what they'll do is on the surface, they'll say, sure, I'll do that for you or whatever, but they just don't do it. Or they'll do a lousy job, or they'll do...
They're people pleasers, it sounds like.
Yeah, but there's just this underlying rage. They withhold information. They withhold things that, could maybe make things better for somebody. And they do that on purpose. Or they'll say things like, yes, you've lost a lot of weight, too bad about the stretch marks. Or, something like that, because they're just kind of like a little bit jealous. They never really have anything good to say about anybody else, because they're just kind of always sort of this level of disdain or jealousy, or
it's that emptiness that you described.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But they look, everybody thinks that they're nice. Everybody thinks that they're good people. They might be churchgoers. They might be, they always do the right thing, but
when people are watching.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. These are the people that they might sort of plant seeds before the discard phase. So the last phase of a narcissistic relationship is the discard phase. So they might sort of start planting seeds like, Susie was drinking a lot, last night, I'm just so worried. I'm so worried about her. They'll put it in terms of care. They'll put it in terms of concern, when they start talking to other people, but they're not really caring and concerned. They know what they're doing. They're kind of actually planting seeds of.
What is the discard phase? Does that mean when they're done with the relationship?
When the relationship is going to be ending soon. So when they start lining up people that are going to be, they want on their side to be on what they call flying monkeys, that they're going to want to be on their side and against whoever their target is, whoever their victim is, whoever their person is that they're going to be discarding. They put it in terms of, I just care. I just care about them. So I just want to make sure that, what's going on. But they put it in terms of care, but then they're going to say something bad about them, So they're very stealth. They're very stealth in that way, because they try to paint themselves as a victim. They try to paint themselves as a victim. They try to paint themselves as life hasn't been fair to them. And a lot of times they keep themselves as a victim because, there's a payoff for being a victim.
Sure. Yeah. They've gotten result from it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's a payoff for life isn't fair. But then, there's obviously a ceiling to life if you want to stay a victim.
Right. That makes sense. So it sounds like there are a lot more narcissists out there than we probably think. And,
oh, yeah. Definitely.
learning how to recognize those red flags. You say that you're going to feel it pretty immediately. You're going to know that you're in this dynamic where the power control just feels completely off. It doesn't feel very balanced. There's lack of empathy. There's this feeling like you just constantly keep giving and the other person is just this empty well. And so there's these signals. And once you recognize it, I imagine now is the opportunity where your expertise really comes into play. And how do you negotiate with the narcissist to really slay the bully? I'm planting a seed for your book that I'm so excited to talk about. But once you recognize that you're in a relationship dynamic with the narcissist, how do you get what you want?
So SLAY is the acronym actually for how to get what you want. And SLAY, it stands for strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you.
Okay.
So strategy is the overall piece that you're going to want to create. And that's you're going to be your GPS, the vision. Where is it that you want to go? So many times when you're dealing with a narcissist, you just are like a turtle on your back and all you can think about is what are they doing and how, pointing the finger. And so people like forget to think about what it is that they want, So, I tell people, stop, think about what it is that you want. Where is it that you want to go? What's the resolution that you want? Be very, very clear about that. Write it down, be specific, so important. When you write down your vision, when you're specific about it, it's so much more likely that you're going to get what it is that you want. So, and then create an action plan. How are you going to get there? So that's S for strategy. Then leverage. Well, we started to talk about that a little bit, which is, thinking about your diamond level supply versus your coal level supply. So what is going to be the most important thing to the narcissist that you're dealing with? What's their diamond level supply? What's that one thing or the couple of things that they, don't want to be exposed about, who's the most important people, in their lives that, is it a new form of supply? Is it their employees? Is it their employer? Is it their, who's going to be most important to them? And then because their coal level supply is probably you, controlling you, manipulating you, right? So you want to have them let go of that. You want to have them let go of you. So you want to create a plan for leverage that's going to threaten that source of supply such that, you create a source of leverage so that you threaten the source of supply that is going to be more important for them to keep than the supply that they get from jerking you around, and then threaten that. But you don't actually expose them, because if you do, then your leverage is gone, right? So that's kind of
interesting.
And those your leverage can be 40 different things, but the important thing is you build a lot of it and you kind of build this invisible fence around them, and then you present it all to them all at once. And part of your strategy and your tactics, by the way, are going to be when and how are you going to present that to them? Okay. And then anticipate what the narcissist is going to do and be 2 steps ahead of them. Well, what kind of narcissist are you dealing with? You've got to anticipate that, because they all act differently in negotiations. Covert, grandiose, malignant. So I've got a whole lot of things in my program about that. And then I have all sorts of things in my program about tactical ways to handle narcissists. Making a plan, stand, fluff or favor, vomit later. I have all sorts of different ways to handle narcissists. And then the why is you. Focusing on you being on the offensive, your mindset. 99% of a negotiation happens, winning happens before you even show up into the room. You have to believe that you can win. Because if you don't believe it, nobody can help you. You have to believe it. And then that's the power. That is the power. I always say the first negotiation of the day happens with yourself when you first wake up in the morning.
I love that. Yeah.
So
Yeah, what I really hear you saying is, I love the SLAY acronym. So it's strategy, leverage, anticipate, and you. Strategy, have your vision, be clear with what you want, where you're going, what a win looks like, and be able to stay fast to that. Because it sounds like the biggest emotional distress that happens in a relationship with narcissists is just that constant confusion, manipulation and confusion. So where you lose track, that's where the vision keeps you on course. The leverage is finding out what is more important to them than the tentacles that they have wrapped around in you, and be able to present that in such a way. Now, when we talk about this leverage piece, because this works in any negotiation, whether you're in a negotiation with someone who is emotionally maybe stunted, like a narcissist, or anything really, you got to know what the leverage is.
yeah.
Are you presenting this leverage in a confrontational way? Is there, or does it all depend on the type of person sitting across from the table?
Well, in my perfect world, you present it like in a negotiation setting, like in a mediation setting or something like that, because you really want to give them options. Option A is, here's the best option, or option B is, I'm going to drop the hammer on your head. And you're going to potentially be exposed, and it's probably not going to be something that you want. So option A is probably going to be the better option for you.
Sure.
That's kind of how my perfect way is to do it. But there's other ways that you can do it too.
And then anticipate. So you're going back to that vision. You're thinking multiple steps ahead, so you can always plan according to any pivots that they might throw at you. And then the you. This is a beautiful piece, Rebecca. This is all about your ability to really focus on your needs, which ends up getting sacrificed in a relationship with someone that is truly not looking out for you. So I love that. When does the book come out?
It comes out in October, but it's in pre-sales now. And if you go to slaythebully.com,
Love it.
then you can actually pre-order it now and get tons and tons of free stuff, including actually a full version of the manuscript early. So even though it doesn't drop till October, you will get a full version of the manuscript early, so you can actually read it before October. And we will be releasing a full course that's going along with it, a masterclass, a workbook, and like $400 worth of bonuses ahead of time. So it's definitely worth pre-ordering it early.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, if you have even the slightest inkling that you think you might be in a relationship or know someone's in a relationship with a narcissist, and you want to win back your life, then check out slaythebully.com and all of Rebecca's content on YouTube, on Instagram, and her website. She's got so many amazing testimonials of the work that she's done. Negotiation is such a powerful tool across the board, knowing how to do it, when to do it, but more so when to do it for your life, especially when you're thinking about someone that's not really looking out for the best version of you. Rebecca, is there anything that I haven't asked you yet that you want our listeners to know?
I also have a free, another freebie for your listeners. If they want, I have free phrases for disarming narcissists. If they want to grab those, they can go to disarmthenarc.com and grab those. And like lots of people love that giveaway, because you can use that for writing emails, text messages, just even communication in general. And so if anybody is dealing with a narcissist in their life at all, they can get that, disarmthenarc.com. And then also they can find me on YouTube. I have like 30 something million views in 2 years on my YouTube channel. So they can check me out on YouTube and on Instagram at Rebecca Zung. So
awesome. I will put all these spots to find you in the show notes and make sure that we are directing the content towards that. Friends and family and listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the High Value Man conversation with this wonderful guest, Rebecca Zung. Please check her out. If you enjoy this episode and you know somebody that might like to know more about the Narcissist Slayer, do us a big favor and like, comment, leave us a 5-star review, and we will see you on the next episode. Talk to you soon. Much love and many blessings. Boom.